Welcome. This is April the 22nd, 2023. I'm with Judy Carroll in Australia. She's an experiencer. She's been on several times before. She's written 5 books. She's got a relationship with the Zeta Greys. And she's read the book, The Rising by Jeff Selver. She just finished reading it. So while it was fresh on her mind, I thought we should get together and talk about it. Jeff couldn't come on the video himself today, but Judy and I thought we would talk about it. So welcome, Judy. Good to have you back.
Oh, thanks, Brian. Good to be back. I always enjoy these interviews. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you're also another fellow experiencer of the Greys, so you can relate to Jeff's material better than most people can. So I want to get your take on it. This is going to be an interesting talk.
Yeah, it was a brilliant book. So many parallels there. It's just unbelievable. And it's lovely to get that validation too. I mean, you believe yourself, you know what you've been through, but to have somebody else come out with exactly the same thing, it's really brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's important for corroboration too, in terms of evidence and convincing others. If thousands of people are having these experiences, people say, hey, this is a thing, something's going on here. This is genuine.
I even remember Susie Hansen saying that in her book. She asked what we need to do down here. She asked one of the Grey elders, and the answer was get validation, get corroboration, confirmation. That's really important.
Yeah. So we're doing it. Yeah. So where do you want to begin? You highlighted some pages on Jeff's book, beginning with page 12 about the impossibility of full disclosure. Where did you want to start?
Yeah, look, I think we might do that. We might just take each of those. And then whenever you want to come in with that little clip, that 6-minute clip that he did.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is called When Will Humans Gain the Conscious Abilities of Gray Aliens? And this is part 2. In the first 7 minutes, he really described something quite profound, which had a real effect on me. So I asked Judy for her view on it. So we'll play this for the audience and then we can talk about it.
So experiencing or seeking the above states can help open the doors to experiencing these next abilities, which are often observed with the beings. So no space. So earlier I talked about remote viewing. Remote viewing is very real. It's actually very fascinating to see how it's kind of taken off in the field. I see that there's a lot of people doing websites now and YouTube channels, and this is great. And it's all very real. You can prove these things to yourself. You don't need anyone to tell you that this is real. You can go and try and do these experiments yourself. And it is very real. Remote viewing is real. And again, there is credible research to back it up as an actual ability. And when you look at the nature of reality, talking quantum and stuff, it all just makes sense now that this is where the human is going, that the beings themselves have utilized all this. And then humans, this is all just kind of new and we're moving into it. So remote viewing is real. You have access to no space or all space within you, meaning you have access to all of everything. Everybody can experience remote viewing. So as I mentioned earlier, when I mentioned a quantum dimensional consciousness, dimensional as in there are degrees and intensities of consciousness. So you can experience degrees of remote viewing. You can portions of it, or you can open up to it fully, and you can go further down the rabbit hole of what remote viewing can actually do. And so there are degrees and intensities of this ability. So we can all experience remote viewing, but with focus, we can remotely put your ethereal body into the location which you review. So this is an extension of that. Now, I talked about focus earlier, and how focus, that the brain is akin to a magnifying glass with the ability to focus. And when you focus intensely enough, you can create fire. Well, in the Vedic tradition, you use meditation as that ability to create pure focus. And there is a truth that when you have this ability to create focus, you get good at the subtle experiences. You get good at subtly understanding these different feelings and sensations of the subtle self, the ethereal self. So when you're remote viewing, the other step to remote viewing is literally pulling out your body, and in kind of a remote viewing state, like in a ethereal state, you're still in your body while you're meditating, yet you can project out a full body self. I've seen people do it. I've been the other end result of someone bilocating. your body can materialize, as in bilocate. You will project out your ethereal self, this other higher self, and then it has the ability to create a body, a full visible body that can be touched, that can be handled by someone else. And you can pick up and talk, and you can do things in that other space while you're still at home meditating or wherever you are. Now, this is high level. I'm not saying I've done this, but I have definitely been the end result of someone doing it and proved that they were somewhere else, thousands of miles away. I speculate control of the ethereal body is what allows for floating as well too. And when you look at people who talk about floating, this is what they're talking about. They're this high energy raised state that gets created in the ethereal self, and the ethereal self allows, while it's still housed in the body, allows for extraordinary manipulation of the physical universe. You can take, so this one is very fascinating. And seems pretty much the experiences most contactees have and that I've witnessed as well too. And this is where I'm talking about the quantum kind of like collective consciousness effect. I really don't understand it fully. It seems like as a humans, we collectively project out a human world. So when a gray alien comes here, it has the ability to make itself a human in an ethereal form. My gray alien did that. So it's part of my story. It's part in my book. My gray alien had a human body, and she tricked me. She played a joke on me. And then my spiritual teacher caught it, and it's a whole synchronicity about it. So the other twist is that vice versa, humans have talked about becoming gray aliens on their ships. This is the ethereal body. This is the ethereal body transforming into the realm that it goes into. That is corroborated by my own spiritual teacher, who is a guru, who just doesn't teach me directly on this content, because this is just out of this world. I actually just listen to him, and I may bring up pieces here and there. And he's randomly one day said, whatever realm you go to, you take on the body of that realm. And that's exactly what I see here. Ethereal bodies that when they're in this other, we aren't aware of the dimensional state we have here. We kind of don't, we think we just live out on this planet, but when another being comes here, it has the ability in an ethereal form to take on the body of the human while it's here. And that's a choice. It doesn't have to do that. But this is also demonstrated with shamans who do it with animals, and Skinwalker Ranch. The people who know the story of Skinwalker Ranch, there are bizarre animals there that seem to take on the lives of humans or personalities, or can walk. Animals that can stand up and start walking. So these are the abilities of the ethereal body. That's exactly what this is. These are extensions of remote viewing. And as I said, everything is in degrees and intensities. And so the consciousness has these abilities. Remote viewing is just the beginning, and then you can continue moving on, having a developed body as you play. This is the nature of the universe. This is the play of the nature of the universe.
That made a real impression on me, the idea that you can project your consciousness onto an alien craft. Like I've done remote viewing before, that you can go there and you can take on assume the identity or the image, like say a gray image on the craft. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, look, that's really important, because the bottom line here is that these are all just forms. They're vehicles that we take on, whether it's an earth human body, a grey body, whatever, reptilian body or whatever. They're just forms in our pure essence, where what people see down here is orbs. We're just an orb of light. So that's what our true form is. And often up on the ships, that's the form we take. And you'll see the greys shape-shifting into their form. The body's just left sitting in a chair, and the orb or the light soul essence comes up out of it, usually through the crown chakra. So that's the bottom line. One of the very first things that I was told when I connected with the greys face-to-face back in 1983 was to learn meditation, because they knew that this was going to allow me to do these sort of things. And I was having trouble with it. They knew I was trying, but I was having trouble with it because I'd been a professional dancer, so I was very physically oriented. Even though I knew there was stuff going on, other stuff, higher stuff going on, I was physically very physically oriented. So their advice to me was to learn Tai Chi. And so this is why I was really impressed in Jeff's book, The Rising, when he was told exactly the same thing by the Greys. And I know that they love Tai Chi because dance and body movement is very, very important to them from the balance perspective. That's part of keeping our energy system in balance. And this is why when we do dance, we feel good. It gives us a high, it gives us a lift. And Tai Chi is known as moving meditation. And so this is how I came to be able to do the work I do by doing Tai Chi, which I learned about over 30 years ago. And now I teach it to others. And you can see the light coming on in their eyes during the class when they start learning how to feel the energy. They become more sensitive to the energy. So I totally back up what they say. There's the best advice I've ever been given. Shibashi is another very good thing, which is it's a type of Qigong.
Yeah. It's
very,
also true
very
about
good.
dancing. I know when you dance, it liberates a lot of energy. I sometimes feel quite inspired. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
ideas flow from dancing, creates more balance.
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially if you can just sort of make it up as you go along and don't have to worry about choreographed steps.
Yeah. I make up as I go along. Yeah.
Like I know I was guided into that even, you know, as a 15-year-old where I was guided into learning Spanish dancing, flamenco. Because again, learning to coordinate feet and hands, castanets and the heel tapping was also a way of training me in meditation and to be able to access higher levels at the same time keeping myself grounded, which is the way I receive my teachings from the Greys now, and I'm able to write them down. So that sort of training is really important.
Yeah. And also with regard to Jeff's video, you've done this yourself, right? You've gone on craft and you've taken on the Grey form in craft.
Always.
Yeah.
The story that I've told in interviews before is I actually remember seeing myself doing it one night in the mirror. I got up out of my body, leave the physical body. It's just the car. It's like parking the car in the garage. And I was standing in front of the mirror, and I think I did this on purpose so I could actually watch the process. And so I was in my astral form or my etheric body in human form. And I know a lot of people who've left their body. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Brian, but when you leave your body and you look back down on it, you get this sort of, oh, yeah, what I look like.
Yeah, it happened to me once when I was 16. I left my body and I saw it on the bed. And it's funny, I was trying to flick on the light because it was dark and I was frustrated that my finger couldn't turn on the light.
Yes. Yeah. But, you know, to me, the body looked really weird. And watching myself in the mirror, I started shape-shifting into my grey form. And up on the ship as a grey, I often wear like a black robe with a hood. And I had this hood over my head and I could see my grey face inside the hood. And the sort of gut reaction I got was, oh, thank goodness for that. That looks better.
Oh, you're more comfortable being a grey than a human.
Much more. Yeah. So I've actually, as I say, I've watched this process happen. So, yep, what Jeff says there is absolutely spot on.
Yeah. So for me, that kind of opens up opportunities if people have some talent at remote viewing or meditation or concentration. They could learn to project themselves, and maybe they could go onto these big mothership crafts and interact with ETs. Do you think that's possible that people could do that?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. Have you ever read Courtney Brown's books on remote viewing?
I've seen quite a few of his videos, but I haven't read his books.
Absolutely brilliant. That was sort of what also started opening me up to all of this, reading his books. And he's had a lot of contact with the Greys, really good contact, which he speaks about in his books. Cosmic Voyage is one of them. And Cosmic Explorer is the other one that I've read. Very, very good. I also remember one of our Grey elders telling us that he could be in 3 places at once.
Oh, can you explain that?
Well, again, I think what the elders do, the little Greys that you see up on the ship, in some cases, the elders can actually place their consciousness inside their small bodies. And obviously they have such an expanded consciousness, or they consciously have an expanded consciousness, that they can place their consciousness into several bodies or a couple of bodies. and then keep it in the one they're in as well. So it's like they can
Wow.
open their consciousness up into sections. That has so much control over it.
And that reminds me, the Buddha said, being one, could become manifold. Being manifold, he could be one.
Yes.
So the Buddha said that himself. He could project different images of himself simultaneously.
Yeah,
A light
yeah,
being can do that.
yeah. That's right. Yeah, yeah. So it's saying we are one, we are many, and I think that's an example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
I
good.
know that I have also left my body and visited people tonight. I have a vague memory of it in the morning, but on a couple of occasions, I've managed to remember pieces of furniture in their room. So I got good confirmation on
Oh, you mean you could call them up and say, hey, I moved your chair.
it. Yeah, I didn't
Oh.
actually manage to move anything, but both people could remember me being there in my great form. And one
Wow.
of them, I gave her the message, it's time to wake up. And funnily enough, I actually spoke it in the Russian language because I'd had a life in Russia, a physical as human life there. And I think we'd known each other back then. So
Wow.
that was amazing proof. And her mother actually rang me the next morning to tell me because I couldn't really remember. And as her mother was speaking to me on the phone, I got the vision of a piece of furniture in her room, what her bed looked like.
So
And
what did her mother witness about you?
oh, I was actually teaching her mother Tai Chi. So we knew each other, we were friends. And I'd been to their home a couple of times, but I'd never been into the girls' bedroom. I mean, we all just sat in the lounge and talked or sat outside. It was really good proof because I asked her mother, look, does she have a bed that looks like this? And I described it. And the mother said, yes, exactly.
Good,
So
good.
I was so thrilled to get that proof.
Well, this is good corroboration. It's good to corroborate his story because he just came out. His memories came back in July 1st, 2019. He's made a series of videos. So for the viewer on his YouTube channel, Jeff Selver, I can link below this one, also Vancouver UFO. And I've been in about 35 hours of his videos. He described this. And I read the draft of his book. So yeah, do you want to go through sections of his book?
Yeah, look, I think we will. Do you know if he's still having contact?
Oh, yeah.
I must
Yeah.
ask him.
I'm not sure how frequent it is.
Yeah.
He told me that he can just concentrate and ask his elder a question. Like he deals with one gray, she calls herself his handler. She's like a grandmother figure, been with him his entire life. He said he could just concentrate and communicate with her that way psychically. He doesn't have to
Yes.
actually go on the craft.
Yes,
Because
I
he
do
can
that,
when he
with
needs
my,
to.
yeah, I do that
Yeah.
too. So yeah, that works. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I last talked to him a few weeks ago. We did a video with the Seattle Sufan meetup group. We went on for 5 hours. I asked him a lot of questions about that 6-minute section of the video as well.
Let's start with page 12, the possibility of full disclosure. And what he said, the scale of consciousness required to embrace this new reality seems very far away from the mind of the average citizen on our planet. Now, I know you and I agree with this.
Yeah, they can't handle the truth. It's got to go gradually. And I know Susie Hansen emphasizes that. The Greys have told her that. Have the Greys told you that as well?
Yeah. What I've written down is that people are awakening, but there's still not many compared to the vast majority. The people who have awakened aren't that many. It seems a lot because that's the field we work in, and we think, oh, everyone's opening up. But compared to the majority, no, there's not that many.
Yeah, we're an echo chamber, right? We're an echo chamber. We think we're ready. Yeah, we are.
Exactly. The majority of people on the planet are just struggling to feed themselves, honestly, and live day to day, or else they're immersed in things like, sport and television,
Distraction.
what was on TV last week, and what's happening in Hollywood or with the Kardashians or whatever.
And they laugh at UFOs. They laugh at EVTs.
Speaking to scientists, I can see the difficulty they're still having with the idea of interdimensional contact and universal consciousness. The brain and consciousness are two different things. I can see, even with scientists, they're struggling with that.
Yeah, because the materiality, the idea of the universe is just physical materiality,
yes,
that paradigm.
Pure 3D. And also the other thing is all the disinformation being put out about the Greys down here. Why they're going to come here? They're not going to land with all this going on. They don't want to get shot at.
Well, next paragraph to that, he says, It's obvious to see how incredibly disruptive the beings would be to our everyday life if disclosure were to occur. Their advanced technology, if distributed and governed by our profit-driven and capitalistic world, would only add to further displacement and disparity of wealth and power.
Yeah. There's enough chaos going on down here now. They don't want to cause any more. That's the last thing they want to do.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be gradual. We had Stephen Bassett on a couple months ago, and of course, his whole focus since 1996 has been lobbying the U.S. government for full disclosure. He says it's coming. So I asked him, well, maybe it's wrong. You know, he had a very articulate answer. He says, well, we've been doing a gradual disclosure for 80 years. Now it's time. By that, well, we still have to wait another 8 years. We'll see.
Yeah. But you know what worries me is that they're going to go ahead with this fake alien invasion, and that's going to be their form of disclosure, which is going to absolutely freak everyone out.
Yeah, I think that could happen. It could happen.
Yeah. Page 15, understanding our own spirituality.
Yes.
The need to understand our own spiritual potential in order to understand the ETs. This involves not just reading about spirituality and absorbing ourselves in theories, but rather putting into practice our own spirituality and what we truly believe to be the nature of the universe. Yes, absolutely. To me, this involves acknowledging the oneness of all life. This is the key to the whole thing. And this will come in more as we go into this interview, because there's been this message given out over millennia down here. On the human level, it means letting go of all racism, prejudice, religious intolerance, the need for war. It means showing respect and compassion towards all life, regardless of the physical outer form it takes, and caring for the environment of our planet. If everyone could practice spirituality in this way, our world would be a very different place.
Yes. But it seems it's these reptarians that are behind the opposite of this, dividing us and all this infighting. You know.
Yeah. Even some of them are coming over. I mean, they're not all bad.
Yeah, like the I remember you pointed that out, that the reptilians are mostly good. It's more the reptarians, the native to Earth.
Yes.
But you think even some of the reptarians are coming around? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I shouldn't even use the term bad. I should use out of balance. It's lack of balance that causes us to have that come from fear, so that we have to control everything around us. And I think some of them are starting to come out of that as well, hopefully.
Yeah. The Buddha, he used the term skillful actions and unskillful. He didn't like to say good and bad or evil or virtuous, more skillful and unskillful.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, very well put.
So there's hope then, even for the reptarians. That's good to hear.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And also, yes, that's right. On page 37, humans with grey DNA. Now this sort of comes back into what he was talking about. The grid planned out in the 1940s to 1950s that aligns all Earth, physical Earth bodies that have grey DNA. Remember reading that part?
Yeah.
This is really interesting. This grid that they're talking about, or he's talking about, was designed because of communication difficulties that became apparent at that time. And this was connected with the Roswell crash. The crash enabled the Greys to experience first-hand difficulties in communication with Earth humans, because a couple did survive, and trying to communicate telepathically and being misinterpreted. This was huge. It's also why the hybrid program was stepped up after that. They hadn't realised how badly Earth humans were lagging behind in universal awareness.
So this DNA program, is he saying that they're kind of infusing our DNA with more of a spiritual component, or more of a spiritual uplifting component?
Yes. There is an exchange going on, because there was a group of Greys who lost their ability to feel emotion. They got too caught up in the scientific thing and sort of, fell off the track because of this. So they need the human component brought back, but humanity needs the more expanded consciousness to be able to evolve. And this is what the whole genuine hybrid program is about, assisting both races to come back to a point of balance.
So this seems to be the core of what's going on. It's very significant. This points to the future, what's actually going on, the change in humanity. This is at the core of it.
Yeah.
When do you think this began, this process? This
Well,
recent process?
I think it really started in the 1940s and 1950s. That's when they really started getting into it. As Jeff said, the grid plan, the
Okay.
grid that was planned out in the 1940s and 1950s.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
certainly when they started being seen in 1947.
Yeah,
People really noticed them.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like we're looking at two levels of reality here. We've got 3D lower reality and we've got a higher, greater reality. And that's very much what the Roswell crash was about. Okay, on a lower level, yes, it was a crash, but on a higher level, it had all been planned beforehand.
Yeah, I think so. They probably planned the crash to give it to humanity, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Do you want to go on to the next quote? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Page 59, the Greys being humanity's agents of change. I love that.
Yes. Wow.
Their specific job involves helping humans to evolve in consciousness, and it's exactly right. Right. They carry out this work universally, not just here on Earth. This is why they're so well adapted for space and interdimensional travel. Grey bodies are basically spacesuits, and the same form is used by other planetary cultures as well. Because again, we've got to remember our true form is an orb, an energy ball of light.
Yeah. So when people see orbs, they're actually seeing a being of some kind, which could even be a human or a grey, like it's a soul, basically.
Oh, could be anything. Yeah, that's right. Or a relic come to visit them. So yeah, that's why they're so adaptable. The Greys originally evolved out of insectoid species, whereas Earth humans evolved out of mammals. And as we know, insectoids have very, very strong bodies for their size. On Earth, the insectoids are the widest ranging species and the strongest. And in the universe, the Greys are the same. They're the widest ranging species and the most adaptable and the strongest of the lot.
Wow.
Because of those bodies.
And how about the mantids? What about the mantids?
Yeah, well, they're Greys as well. What I do, I use the term grey to indicate insectoid as opposed to mammalian or avian or whatever.
Well, the mantid certainly looks like a praying mantis. It certainly looks like an insect. Yeah. Whereas the grey looks more like a humanoid.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Quite a number of the Greys actually started off on Earth as the ant people, many millennia ago, long time ago. And they're acknowledged by the Hopi people. They actually showed the Hopis how to build their homes inside caves and things. And there's another Native American group who also acknowledged them as the gardeners of the earth. I think it might be the Navajo people or one of the other groups.
Wow.
And they used to refer to them as the moon people because they'd see them out at night doing work caring for the environment. It was their job to sort of set up ecosystems and an environment on Earth. That was the ant people's job. They eventually got driven from the planet by the reptoids. So they then settled on the moon, and then from there on, they moved out through the universe to Zeta Reticuli and other star systems.
Yeah. They probably also originated on Zeta Reticuli, didn't they? Like other ones originated there. Because it's like a billion years older.
Yeah. I'm not saying all Greys came from there, but there was certainly a large number that came from Earth. So this is why they care so much for planet Earth, because they are originally an Earth species, an Earth human species.
Wow. And the line that they're humanity's agents of change, that's very significant, I think, for people to know, because people don't know any better. They say, well, yeah, UFOs are real. I'm sure aliens are real. Like most people, but they think, well, I guess they're just observing us, right? They're just observing us, like scientists observing us. But no, there are agents of change. They're behind, like since the 1800s, all the changes in culture, technology, everything. They're probably behind all of this.
Yeah, this is what I loved in Jeff's book. He pushed the idea of just how old and evolved the Greys are.
Yeah.
Okay, not all of them, but the majority are very, very highly evolved. Yeah, they're almost angelic. In fact, I think some of the mandarins are angelic.
Yeah, we really recommend his book. I'll have a link for his book below this video. He's kind of like a reporter on the scene. He's had something like 26 contact events that he can remember well, and he's written them out very thoroughly. So he's kind of like, he's a reporter on the scene, reporting what he sees, and if he doesn't know, he doesn't know.
Yes.
That's what I like about like you and Susie Hansen, just reporting what you see. Like it's
That's
experiencers that are a window to what's really going on with ETs.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and we try not supposing things because we don't want to say the wrong thing. We don't know everything, so we just keep ourselves open. It's just lovely to get that confirmation from someone else.
Yeah, like putting the pieces of the puzzle together, all these different pieces, it adds up to something we can make.
Like a giant jigsaw.
Yeah, so we can make some hypothesis. Once we get this information, we can have some hypothesis of what's going on.
Oh, and then some of us have certain information, others have other information. And with an open exchange of information, we can make a bigger picture of the whole thing.
That's probably what they want us to do in terms of gradual disclosure, right? A piece at a time. A decade goes by, another decade, we learn a bit more. It kind of, gets into society through osmosis gradually, so it doesn't freak people out,
Yeah. I was just talking about this with my publicity agent yesterday, who lives in America. And she was saying, and I agree with her, there are more and more of us who are greys manifesting down here in Earth human form, coming forward and talking. That very well-known Elizabeth April is one. I was watching a video of hers the other day. And that's the way we can communicate. We can't turn up at our grey forms and try and communicate because people can't pick up telepathically on what we're saying. But coming in human form, and they could see that we can express emotion when we're in the appropriate body.
Yeah.
We can't in those bodies, but we can in these ones. And hopefully it's helping people to feel better with us, that, hey, we're just humans too.
Yeah, that's the way to do it gradually. How many people do you think, how many human beings are like that in the world out of 8 billion?
Oh, look, it's quite interesting because Jeff mentioned this in his book. He thought that there are hundreds of millions down here. I think he said. I don't think there's quite that many. I'm not really sure how many there are because I'm not aware of, of all of them.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. And some are coming forward, some aren't. Some aren't aware that they're dual soul, like with grey contact, connections. They haven't all woken up yet.
I know in Susie Hansen's lecture, she said millions have been taken on the craft. Like, how lectures in these motherships have like 200 or 300 people at a lecture. She said millions are brought on the craft.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Though they're not necessarily greys or dual souls, but they're human beings that have been brought on to give them some teachings.
Yes. And for them to be brought on, they must have asked for it. So they're obviously open to it.
Yeah. You asked for it.
Yeah. You might not remember, but you did.
Yeah,
because that's one of the things that gets thrown up every so often. Oh, I didn't ask for this. It's not fair. But you did.
I say, how come they didn't ask me? I've never been on any craft. I'm not aware, but why don't they ask me? Aren't I working hard?
Mind you, you don't know because amongst people who are brought up there don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I had childhood experiences of paralysis and a vibrational state and a bit of astral traveling. I just assume it was like an astral traveling related thing, but I can't be sure that I wasn't either. Yeah,
I would say you would have to have been brought up there. The fact that you're interested and you're doing this work. That's what I say to other people. The fact you have an interest in it, you would have to have a connection.
But still, anyone just, logically, I've been watching YouTube videos since 2006. Anyone could come to the reasonable conclusion, this is like really the most important issue in the world. Therefore, I'm interested in it. And even if I wasn't an experiencer, logically, this is something very important and I have an interest in it,
Yeah, but that goes back to what we were talking about before, just the fact you have an interest in it. When you think of all the millions of people down here who just couldn't care less.
Yeah.
They're just not interested. They don't want to know. You try and talk about, I'm not interested in that. No. What did you see on TV last night?
That's
it's just the fact got an interest.
I have a friend, Beverly. She was at Kitsilano Beach, as close to where I live. And she once saw a UFO just parked in the sky. So she said to this lady at the beach, you see that object over there? That's a spaceship with people on it from another planet. And the lady just said, well, just walked away. Like, who cares? You know,
Oh,
it's right there in
no,
front of her. I just couldn't be bothered.
no, no. On page 60,
Yeah.
the Greys' full understanding of spirituality and dimensionality with their merging of genetics and biology. And here I'd like to add consciousness. To quote from Jeff's book, they accentuate certain aspects of biological forms to express specific spiritual consciousness perceptions and or abilities. The human body is just one of their many products.
Ah. So
Yeah.
they can create whatever body they want, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. What they do, and this is the work that Jacqueline Smith and I used to carry out in our last life as Grey siblings. We used to do a lot of adapting species to different planets. People get very upset down here, and it is sad when you see a species become extinct, but the DNA is always kept, and this is a major job that the Greys do. They have a huge DNA bank, so no species ever becomes extinct. If they can't continue on down here, we take them elsewhere and adapt them to another planetary environment.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this. I loved that job. It was something I was absolutely crazy about. Setting up environments for creatures who'd been taken from the environment that wasn't suiting them or was dying, and being adapted to another environment. I was absolutely enjoying the job.
We should refer the audience to the video that we did with you and Jacqueline Smith called When Your Grey Siblings in a Previous Life. They can scroll back on our channel, videos there for them.
Yeah.
I wonder where these DNA kept. I imagine like Noah's Ark. Remember Jacqueline Smith said these motherships, I was asking her, how big are they? Like, are they a mile across or 10 miles? She said they could be up to like 200 miles across.
Yeah.
So is this where they're storing, like, I guess they're storing the DNA all over these craft and on other planets. Must be a big administration, right?
Yeah, pretty big. Yeah, that's right. And it's like a holographic storage system, so it's not always physical. It can be, because remember, DNA isn't purely physical. DNA spans all dimensions.
Yeah, like 5D DNA.
Oh yeah.
Well, thanks for mentioning. That'll never occurred to me that it doesn't actually have to be stored physically. I think of Noah's Ark, like physical DNA, but holographic. So wow. So were they stored on a higher dimension, you mean?
Yeah. See, I mean, even the story of Noah's Ark in the Bible is just a 3D version of that. That what would have happened back then. DNA would have been taken from all the creatures on Earth so that they wouldn't be destroyed in the floods that were happening back then.
And I think the story from the Bible is based on Sumerian texts would actually talk about genetics.
Okay.
So the Bible is kind of a simplified version, I guess, for the Sumerian texts, which are older, like about 6,000 years old.
Yeah. Yes, this is part of what the Greys' work is to do, is to awaken more DNA down here. And this comes up next, actually, talking about Mary Rodwell's book, The New Human. She talks about that. So I'll just read that out and I'll explain that a bit more. On page 122, Mary Rodwell's work that she carries out and her book, The New Human, Awakening to Our Cosmic Heritage. On page 220 and 221 in this book, she gives information on how science is starting to open up to how human DNA is mutating, with a third strand being added. This is what the Genuine Grey Hybrid program's about. Activation of more DNA is the key to unlocking deeper and more expanded states of conscious awareness. Wow. So that's the thing. And one of our Grey elder teachers explained this to us. He said DNA is multidimensional and it contains everything. Every life you've lived, memories of past lives, knowledge of future lives. And humans can only access a very small amount, and this is why we can only access 10% of our potential conscious awareness. That's what the human ladder is all about.
So that DNA today, is that coming in the form of star seeds, these kids coming in with this higher DNA?
Yes, that's what Mary talks about in the book.
But is this something but is science incapable of actually seeing it under a microscope? We can't actually see it.
Well, I'm not sure what they did. She talks about it in the book, but some scientists have proven it with at this particular child she mentioned. So it must be showing up physically, which it will
Wow.
eventually. It will start to show up physically.
Because that's a type of evidence which would really make people take notice and see like a third strand or a different DNA in a gifted child. Like, wow.
Yeah. Yes, as I say, it's on page 220 and 221 of her book, The New Human, where she talks
Okay.
about it. Yeah.
Wow. That's like the change you think of, say, Neanderthal to Homo sapiens sapiens about 40,000 years ago or whenever it was.
Yeah. Well, of course, the Greys and other ET races have been around doing it all along,
Yeah.
upgrading and upgrading. And then, of course, you had your interference in the Garden of Eden with the old serpent. And that was a blocking of DNA.
So was that the reptarians, do you think?
Yeah.
So what did they do to the DNA then?
Well, they messed with the developing DNA and blocked it. And in a way, by doing this, they gifted humans with free will before they were quite ready for it. And so this is where the fall of man came in. They used their free will in the wrong way.
Well, that's really quite profound.
This, yeah, I talk about this in my book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, Lessons in History. I go into all that. Yeah.
Good. So where can people find your books? You got a website, right?
Yeah, I got a website, ufograyinfo.com. They can get it through that, and they can also get it on Amazon.
Wow.
Through Amazon.
So were the reptarians, when they interfered with human DNA, were they trying to limit humanity so they could be more controlled or slaves?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I wonder if we've kind of worked around it. Like you said, it's given us free will, and maybe it's an opportunity. Remember you said we have a choice between love and fear. That's one of the advantages of the reptarians.
Exactly. As again, one of our grey elders always says, he says there are no accidents in the greater reality. And so, okay, this is a prison planet to a certain extent because people, can't. They've lost so much of their consciousness, and they don't really know what's going on with all the brainwashing. But at the same time, they still have free will, and the learning experience is making the choice of creating positively or creating negatively, because we're all creating our own reality.
Yeah.
So that's where the school experience comes in, and it's one of the best school planets in the whole universe.
Yeah.
For that reason. So even the interference by the reptarians back then on a higher level, it was still meant to happen.
Yeah.
Unless it's really hard to get your head around.
Yeah. That's good to tell people when they complain about, well, why don't the good ETs stop the bad ETs? This kind of addresses that concern.
Yeah. This is exactly what Elizabeth April was talking about in this interview. I must send it through to you that I caught yesterday. He was saying they can't intervene. Humans have to make their own choices.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that too.
Yeah. And we have to be given the choice of fear or love.
Yeah.
So if the choice of fear isn't provided, we can't make the choice.
Yeah. Also think with the law of karma, we each get the birth that we deserve. So we have to, it's our karma to work out here in this life.
Yeah, that's right.
And we can make the best of it. We can make a better life.
Exactly. If we can just wake up, and that's what the ETs are doing, trying to awaken us to what is actually going on down here.
Yes.
So we can make a more appropriate choice.
That's why we're making videos. That's why we're keep at it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, page 123. Dr. William Brown highlights the DNA molecules influence the sentient activity of the brain. This is what I've also been told by the Greys, how DNA activation assists in the expansion of our conscious awareness up through the 10 levels of the human ladder, what I was just talking about before. This is what evolution in the human kingdom is all about. As our consciousness expands, we move away from the limits of polarity and awaken more and more to oneness. This is illustrated in the Quantum Trinity. And I was given an illustration of the
Quantum Trinity. You can show us that, yeah.
Is that showing up okay?
Yeah. But keep talking so the camera's on you. You want to explain it a bit for the audience?
Yeah. These 2 points down here are the 2 polarities on planet Earth, positive polarity and negative polarity. And when the two start working together in oneness, we get a third higher level, which is the Quantum Trinity. And I actually think that the Trinity that they talk about in Christianity is really, this is what it's about.
No, I think of the
So,
Buddhist, the middle way. The Buddha said the avoidance
yeah,
of the extremes, the
that,
middle way.
exactly,
That's a
exactly.
central concept in Buddhism.
Yep, yep. And what it's about is that 1 and 1 equal 3. The two coming together here equal or create the whole Trinity. And you can take that a step further to expand. 1 + 1 = 3 = 1.
Holy smokes, 1 + 1 = 3 = 1. Okay.
I have a friend who's right into all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I won't get my calculator out. I'll take your word for it.
I actually talk about it in more detail in my Cosmic Spirituality book.
Okay. Yeah, you've got 5 books, just to tell the audience.
Yeah, yeah. And I got her to help me out with that part because she's right into the quantum stuff. More than I am.
Okay.
But yes, Dr. William Brown. And I'm actually wondering if he works with Greg Braden and the other gentleman, I've got his name here somewhere, Nassim Haramein. I wonder if he works with them, because I think Greg Braden has mentioned Dr. William Brown working with DNA. So I'd love to know if it's the same person.
Yeah, and he says DNA molecules. That's getting pretty small when you get down to the molecules.
Yes, influencing the sentient activity of the brain. So this is why opening up more DNA is going to activate more consciousness.
Yeah, it's such a compact storage system, one of the best in the world, right? The brain, the DNA compacts so much knowledge in a cubic inch.
Exactly. But again, where people get confused, and I know a lot of scientists get confused, but his brain and consciousness are 2 different things.
Yes, yeah.
Can be compared to the lungs are the physical organ and the air all around us that we access through our lungs, but we can only access as much air as our lungs are capable of. Same thing, consciousness is all around us and the brain is a physical organ through which we access it. But the capacity of our brain limits the amount of consciousness we can bring in.
Yeah, it's kind of like radio waves and the radio.
Yes, yes, yes. So we come back to planet Earth being on the first level of the human ladder. So Earth humans can generally only access 10% of their potential conscious awareness because that's all our brain can access.
Yeah, yeah. So we need that DNA upgrade. I guess it's happening, right? It's happening in this great program.
Absolutely. Page 185 on the subject of quantum science. It's good. All of these seem to be leading one into another. In the 4th paragraph on page 185, where Jeff talks about the quantum computer he's shown as being God, he asks us if this is artificial intelligence, or is that a label too limiting for it? As soon as I read that, it came up. What it actually is, it's universal consciousness. Which with the technology that the Greys have can be accessed via a computer. So Jeff might be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, a biocomputer, you said, right?
Biocomputer, yeah. So it's not artificial intelligence, it's cosmic consciousness.
Yeah.
Universal consciousness.
That makes sense.
Okay, page 251, UFO activity at nuclear missile silos. Okay. I have read quite a bit about Captain Robert Salas, was the commanding officer at a site back in 1967 where this occurred, and it was seen by all personnel. They saw the ship hovering over the missile silo, and all their missiles were deactivated at once. And as I think he's explained in interviews, this is something that cannot be done, but the ETs did it.
Yeah.
So, yes. It's so interesting on this page where Jeff talks about Robert Hastings' documentary entitled UFOs and Nukes, which demonstrates that all nuclear missile silos in America have had some sort of UFO activity. The genuine ETs are very much against nuclear weaponry, nuclear power in general.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And as Robert Salas surmised when it happened, he said, I really think that they're giving us a message to, hey, you've got to start living in peace. Stop all this war.
Yeah. I remember when I first encountered that idea, I thought it was just a couple of cases in the United States, and I realized like virtually every single nuclear site have experienced UFOs, and in Russia as well, like almost every one has had that.
Yeah.
It's been
I didn't know.
kept
I didn't
secret.
know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's why I was really interested to read that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's very good. It's almost like they allowed us to know about one or two to make us think that it's rare, but they kept secret that it's happening, everywhere with these silos.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I wrote down after this, people complain that the ETs don't intervene in world affairs, but when protocol allows, they have intervened. If they hadn't, we wouldn't be here now.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
A lot of people are counting on that now. Like it could be World War III coming now. So maybe they won't allow nuclear war, but I'm just concerned we might have some other type of devastation that's not nuclear. Maybe they won't stop that. We don't know.
Well, again, this is something that Elizabeth Abel was talking about on this interview. She said if they will look at and examine the timeline of the planet, and if they need to intervene, they will. If they're not supposed to intervene, they won't.
Yeah, like
It
maybe
depends on
calling. I'm just thinking calling of the population. Maybe it is appropriate since they're bringing in these higher DNA kids. Maybe they want to call us old guys, us old DNA.
Well, again, it's not population being told. We choose the time and manner of our passing before we're born. So all those people leaving the planet now would have made that choice. It seems like culling, but in actual fact, it's not. It's a choice they've made.
I like the way you put it. That's a better way to express it to people.
Yeah. And I mean, my co-host Paula and I, on our YouTube channel, we're putting out a series of YouTube clips at the moment on death and dying, because people need to understand that death is not the end. It's not the huge tragedy that they make out down here. For the greys, death's nothing. They just step out of the body, and when they're ready, they'll take on another one. No big deal.
That's so
it's
true.
part of life, part of life.
Yeah, karma and rebirth.
Yeah, exactly. And why people are leaving, some people who are leaving the planet are leaving because they don't feel ready to face the shift up to 5D, which is happening. And so they would prefer to go over to the other side and do a bit more work over there so they can come back. And others who are leaving so that they can provide more help from off planet. So
that's good to know.
That's why, that's what's happening.
Have you been told that, like from your grace?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've put it out in our podcast a few times too.
Yeah, and your YouTube channel is called Judy Carroll.
Yeah.
What is it called? The Zeta Messenger. It's called Judy Carroll.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Judy Carroll, the Zeta Message. They can get in through the Zeta Message, all one word.
Okay, Zeta Message. Okay.
Yeah.
But I've always typed in Judy Carroll to YouTube and I get it right away.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good videos. And
easiest.
we're in some of them too. You got our videos on there too. So watch that.
I just got our last one posted on Friday. I think I've been really busy this week.
Good.
Because I want to listen to the whole thing through, to make notes.
Yeah, very good notes. I've been copying your notes onto our descriptions on our videos. So thank you for your notes. Very thorough.
Good. I actually had to cut some last time. They told me I couldn't put, you're only limited in the word amount you can put up.
Yeah.
So.
Well, copy your notes for this video then. Thank you.
Yes, I will for sure. Yeah. Okay, page 270, all souls in the universe are God. And this is a really important point, that God is just a very, very high frequency energy that, how can I say, manifests through all souls. So we all have God within. How much we open up to it is our free will choice, but we all carry God within us.
Yeah. Whatever that's called, right? That kind of quantum field. I think of it as like a wave, the top of the wave. That's where we think we're separate individual people. And the rest of the wave is kind of the subconscious. And then there's the ocean, which is like this God or this collective unconscious or universal consciousness or all that is. It's a simple image to think of it because the ocean is just water.
Yes. And like Jeff was saying in that little clip you showed at the beginning, we all have that potential within us.
Yeah.
So that's why we can all leave our body, visit different places in our etheric form. We can all do it.
Yeah, and Jeff, he's Vedic, so he talks about the unity consciousness, oneness consciousness. He has a Vedic worldview, calls it unity consciousness. Yeah, thinking of God as unity consciousness.
Yeah,
because when you use the word God, then you have to qualify. Well, what do you mean by God, right? It's different.
Exactly.
Different
And
religions.
yes, and the word God has negative connotations for some people because of the Christian idea of, you know, God being punishing us and judgmental and that, and it's not like that at all. And we actually are talking about that in our podcast at the moment, how when you go over to the other side after you transition, there is no judgmental God figure waiting for you unless you believe that and you create it with your own mind.
Yeah, I guess it's your own mind that evaluates yourself, I suppose, right?
Yeah,
Something
exactly.
like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Page 298, where he's talking about meeting the Federation of Planets, and he sees the mantis.
Oh, wait a minute. You had page 268, 69 on fulfilling your curiosity, meeting the ancient one. You had that?
Oh, that's right. I missed that one out because I thought, well, you know, what can we say about that?
Well,
the ancient.
This is like, I guess, an ancient gray, right? He talks about the ancient gray.
Yeah.
That's very wise.
Yes, that's the elder he works with, an ancient gray.
Well, no, his own elder is just like a gray, I think about 4 foot. But she introduced them to this ancient one.
Right. That's right.
They're like the spiritual gurus, the spiritual advisors for the grays.
Yes, that's right.
It's kind of like another upper echelon of the Gray Society, which I find quite fascinating, you know, that they take their religion or spirituality very seriously. And there's these spiritual figures, the ancient one. Susie Hansen describes these ancient grays as well, like really folded gray skin, like really ancient from the root stock or old stock, she said.
Yeah.
I think, Jeff's saying the same thing.
The ones that we work with are the same, Mars and Horus. They're exactly the same. Very, very wrinkled. Very, very ancient, very, very wise.
Good.
Yeah. But they've got such a sense of humor as well. People forget that. They've got a wonderful
They do, don't they? Others have said that.
Yeah.
Again, they're misrepresented. People think, well, they got no emotion. They want us for our emotions, but they have also wholesome emotions, positive. They don't have anger. They don't have the negative emotions.
Yeah, very much so. There's not the polarity of emotions there is down here, but they still experience emotion.
Yeah.
Which is really important for people to understand. Yeah. Yes, meeting the Federation. I think that actually came into that, didn't it? I love where he met the mantis.
Yeah.
I didn't realize until later on in the book, and he said that it was a mantis, but the way he described it, I thought it was.
They said it had a visceral reaction to it, like kind of scary looking. Also, this particular man that he saw was kind of like a horse head, a long snout with yellow eyes on the side and black cat-like slits, wearing a white robe, but this kind of horse type head, scary looking thing.
That actually happened to me too. On one occasion, Maris, my grey elder, showed himself in mantis form, and I got a fright too. Because he normally shows himself in a more human-looking tall grey form, but on one occasion he let me see his mantis side.
And this is just for the audience. This is a mantid image I got off the net. I guess it's quite a different looking mantid. I think this is more your typical mantid, isn't it?
Yeah,
like the praying mantis. Almost looks like a fly, like big fly eyes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because some of the grey bodies do actually have eyes like flies with all the, how do they call them, multifaceted?
Yeah. The little eyes,
on the eyes,
like 1,000 eyes on the eye kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So you think the mantis could be like that, like 1,000 eyes on the eye?
It wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Yeah. It's amazing,
Yes, I got quite a fright when I saw Maris in his mantis form.
Yeah.
I'd actually left the body to meet him downstairs. It was one night and I left the body in bed and I walked through the back door and down the back stairs. And I could see him standing at the bottom of the stairs. So I came down. And when the ships are around, it's the energy they put out. There's a wind and his cape was flowing because he wears black. And his cape was flowing and, okay, that's Maris, no worries. And I came down and stood in front of him and all of a sudden he shapeshifted into his mantis form and I just felt, oh my God.
Wow.
And then I felt an energy sort of come from his heart into mine and it was fine.
So you realized it was him,
Yeah, I melted. But
this is another image of a mantid. Did it look like this, that tall, skinny thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Richard Dolan says that they may be the highest intelligence that humanity has yet encountered, you know.
Yes, I agree with that. Very, very highly evolved.
Yeah. This is
Yeah,
another mantid image here, right there.
yeah,
the green
that's right.
image.
Holding hands up like that.
Yeah, like an extra joint, it seems.
Yes, yes, yes. I actually think of them as the angelic kingdom. I know that'll shock a lot of humans, but for people.
Yeah,
I
Jeff was
do.
told that meeting, like with the Federation, the mantid said, humans cannot understand where we're from. It's something humans can't understand. So they didn't explain where they're from. And I think he said another time that they're not from a planet, so we can't understand where
No,
they're
they're
from.
way beyond. Yeah. Again, we've got to go back to the human ladder. It's only about the first 3 levels that people occupy planets. After that, you move past that physical existence of living
Oh,
planet. And so the mantids would be right up the top of the ladder. I mean, we think of level 10 as being God consciousness, but
yeah.
there'd be 9 or 10 somewhere up there. So
So
they'd have,
what form do they have? If it's not on a planet, what kind of realm are they in?
well, it's interdimensional. It's just beyond words to be able to describe.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of they be.
Because I know
And they're
that Buddha
pure.
describes the angels that gave us. There's 6 levels of the centrosphere, like dimensions. But beyond that, he describes the Brahmas, which go beyond male and female identity, and they have a fine
Oh, yeah.
material form. So I wondered if they're Brahmas, but
Yeah.
like, why did
Yeah.
the mantid just say it's something humans can't understand? Like, I can understand what you're saying. Why couldn't they just say that? So it's mysterious to me.
I think why they're showing themselves as they are, they're trying to get humans to understand that, hey, you know, there's lots more different forms out there in the universe. We've got to get humans past this outer thing, this outer appearance thing. That's the huge lesson. Move past the outer appearance.
Yeah.
Because if you can tune into their soul, you realize how very high they are. They are right up the very top, which means they can access basically full conscious awareness.
That also makes me think about diversity. Like our society's been encouraged to accept diversity from the top down. It's really pushed on us diversity. One of this is to get us ready for aliens in the future of all these
Exactly.
different races, and so we get used to that. You know.
Exactly. I always remember Mars or Horus, one of them saying, if you think we're different, you should see some of those races out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, compared to them, we're just real ordinary looking humans.
Yeah, like we have, black, white, oriental, brown. It's such a great variety in the galaxy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And the other thing most people don't understand is that most of them are hybrids. It's just the same as on planet Earth. It's very rare to get someone who is pure American or pure English or pure French, whatever, where all our families are mixed. We have a bit of this and a bit of that.
Yeah.
Out there, it's very much the same, and even more so, because I mean, there's more oneness out there than there is down here.
Yeah.
Planet Earth's one of the most divided, polarized planets.
So you're
And
saying there's
so-
all these different races out there, but spiritually they experience more oneness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And even the different races, I mean, like Jacqueline and I were saying, in our past life, we were half Arcturian, half Zeta. So
Yeah.
most of them are hybrids.
Yeah. Changes my view on diversity.
Yes, it sure does.
More accepting of diversity.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, my goodness. Oh, just trying to find where I am. Oh, yes. Oh, this is a big one. This was huge for me. On page 310, the Gaelic link with the Greys, going back to old Ireland here on Earth. This provided great confirmation on a point that I've always felt strongly with the Greys. Now, with this, I'd actually like to start by quoting a message given to contactee Betty Andeasson, now Betty Luca, which was accessed via hypnosis by Ray Fowler, the author of several books written about Betty's experiences. These include The Andeasson Affair, The Watchers and Watchers 2. The last 2 I've got, they're wonderful books. The message was found to be in an ancient Gaelic language and could be translated. And she was given this message by the Greys, and the message was, the living descendants of the northern peoples are groping in universal darkness. Their mother mourns. A dark occasion forebodes when weakness in high places will revive a high cost of living, an interval of mistakes in high places, an interval fit for distressing events.
Oh, what does that mean?
Well, it basically describes what's going on Earth right now.
So it's saying
So
the
the
suffering
blaze-
of the Gaelic races, you're saying?
No, all Earth humans. What I think they meant by the living descendants of the northern peoples, I think they're referring to Atlantis there, but I'm not exactly sure. But also, when you think about it, there's more stuff going on in the northern hemisphere than there is in the southern.
Yeah. I guess
Like I
by
know-
northern people, they mean like Norway, Sweden, Finland, that area.
Well, I think what they might mean, northern people, they might mean northern hemisphere, the whole of the northern
Oh,
hemisphere of the planet.
okay. Yeah, certainly more people in the northern hemisphere,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely
And I
greater
think
population.
also the northern hemisphere is closer linked back to Atlantis, where the southern hemisphere is Monomuria.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not
Interesting.
exactly sure. I'm just putting things out here. I might be wrong. But yes, I also, on the same line, I'd like to quote from a book entitled The Rendlesham Enigma, Book 1, Timeline. You'll see where I'm going in the end. It's all linking in together. This book was written by Jim Pennistone, who was a US Air Force staff sergeant, and a man by the name of Gary Osborn, who was a code expert in deciphering codes. And the book describes the landing of a UFO near the twin RAF bases of Bentwaters and Woodbridge in Suffolk, United Kingdom. Jim Pennistone was a staff sergeant at the time of the incident, and he was one of the first responders. Do you know about the Rendlesham?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was
Incident?
December 26, 1980.
Yeah,
I was on a Zoom with him with the Oregon MUFON. They had him on about a year
Were
ago.
you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
What happened? Jim placed his hand on one of 6 symbols visible on the side of the downed craft and received a major download involving a binary code. Now, binary codes weren't even known about back then in the 1980s. So this is why he needed eventually to link with Gary Osborn, the code expert in code research. Now, this is what Gary Osborn says on page 638 of the Rendlesham Enigma book. To quote, I think that the results of the analysis of the binary code, which point to an ancient system of knowledge encoded thousands of years ago in the past, are going to surprise a lot of people who view the Rendlesham incident as just a UFO event. For example, there is a spiritual evolution of consciousness aspect to all of this, which is based on the esoteric teachings and traditions associated with enlightenment, in inverted commas, which has also been encoded at Giza in the pyramid and used as a focal point in this regard. Now, one of these major theses of the code is the central third point of balance, which takes us back to the Quantum Trinity, which is what I keep getting pushed at me, found in between all and any of the 2 opposites or extremes of our dual reality. We are being told that it is this midpoint in consciousness that we should understand above all else, where we should be focusing our attention, especially if we wish to reduce conflict and all war and human suffering and evolve further. So that's what this code is all about. As well as this, and this is me talking now, 7 ancient cultures were referred to in this binary code, including the ancient Gaelic culture known as the Tuatha De Danann. It's spelled Tuatha, but an Irish friend the other day told me it's pronounced Tuatha De Danann, which are connected with the Devas or nature spirits, with which I've always associated the Greys. Before I'd ever heard of ET contact, I thought of them as being Davic. And I've always had great difficulty in thinking of them as being just an ET culture. Now, the Tuatha De Danann is connected, as I say, with Ireland and the Gaelic culture. So this brings us round full circle taking us back to the greys, being the tour de done. Now, as well as this, I come back to this experience I had back in 1995 at a sacred site in England, where I was taken back there in my etheric form 3 weeks after I got back to Australia. And I was held down on the ground, face up, with 3 or more beings that I immediately knew were like Davis, but I could also see that they were small greys, and a needle about this long with a massive blue, gorgeous faceted crystal was inserted in my third eye chakra. And I struggled because it really, really hurt. I was fighting it with all my strength. And they finally pulled it out. And I said, pull it out, it hurts, it hurts. So they pulled it out. I woke up the next morning with a little crescent-shaped red mark right where it had gone in, right next to the third eye. In fact, it's slightly off centre because I was struggling. And I've still got a little mark there. So this brings it right back to the fairy kingdom, the Devas, the nature spirits, because I think this was a form of initiation that used to be used in that part of the world.
Oh, but what does it mean, the blue crystal? Is it inside your head right now?
What they did, they downloaded all the information that I needed to write the books. That was what the blue crystal contained, the information, and it was like almost like an acupuncture technique, and it was downloaded into my third eye for me to be able to access.
So what year did that happen? Like 1983 was your first contact, right?
Yeah, this was 1995 when I was over in the UK. I went over there.
Oh, then you wrote your books after that.
Yeah, I wrote the books after that, because it was after that, it started coming through a message that you need to write books on your ET contact, but we want you to write them from the ET perspective, not from the Earth human perspective. And this was where the difference was. No one at that point had ever written them from the ET perspective. And so I started getting stuff through enough for 1 book, and then so much more stuff came through, it ended up 5 books.
Wow. Now that kind of reminds me, in the year 2000, I was visiting London with my wife at the time. We took a bus to see Stonehenge, and on the way there, I was kind of, channeling all this information. It was this heightened state. And then when we got there, it's just back down to normal. We're just tourists looking at it and then left. But I was in this powerful state for a few hours.
Yes. Yes, it's an incredibly powerful state. I actually, when I got back to Australia, I was at the circle right on 12 noon on the day of the summer solstice. And I actually took note of the time because we had to be back in Oxford. It's a place near Oxford, and we had to be back in Oxford. So I took note of what time it was. And I happened to be standing right in the centre of the circle at 12 noon. And
you mean that Stonehenge?
No, it's a circle called the Rollright Stones.
Oh.
They're on the border of Oxfordshire and Warwickshire.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was in the circle known as the King's Men, and it's one of the most, how can I say, famous sites for the fairy folklore. Part of the site is on a fairy knoll, so the tradition of the fairy folk is very, very strong there. And so this sort of comes back to the old priestess initiations that they used to do back, in the days of Avalon and all. I think the crescent-shaped mark on the third eye was part of the initiation.
That's
fascinating. It's like the shamanic initiation of having to go out and meet them on your own terms, sort of.
Oh.
I think they used to go out at night into the forest, a little bit like Jeff was made to go on his own.
It was out in the wilderness, like traveling as a vagabond for a long time across Canada in the wilderness.
Yeah, and this brings the Greys back to the nature spirit kingdom, because I have always been very, very drawn to nature, as he was. And this was another. Bells were ringing loudly in my head as I was reading that. And I had to go through this initiation experience with them. And when I got back to Australia afterwards, I thought I had jet lag. I was really out of myself. And I was finding when I was doing Tai Chi and meditation, I was reaching really high states. And it just went on. And I thought, this is ridiculous. And 3 weeks later was when I had this astral plane experience where I was taken out of my body over there. And I came back with the mark on my forehead.
Wow. I want to comment also, like 90% of the crop circles are in one county in England. So it's a very mysterious place, the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I was told actually that there had been a lot of crop circles there around that time. I never got to see one, but I was told there had been a lot of
Yeah.
them, and it's all in that area.
Yeah, one
around
shire,
Salisbury.
90% of them all one area.
Yeah,
Since the
Wiltshire.
70s.
Yeah,
Wiltshire, yeah, since the
Wiltshire.
1970s. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yes. And yes, we visited Stonehenge and we visited Avebury, but the Rollright Stones was very, very special to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my story. So, you know, the fact that the Greys, as Jeff said, a lot of people who have contact with the Greys come from a Celtic background.
And also
so-
their RH blood is RH negative, right? That's a telling sign.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. A lot of them like
Okay.
Irish, Gaelic, RH negative, and also from the
Oh.
Pyrenees in Spain.
Yeah, well, of course, that's where the Celts came across.
Yeah. And they're
Because
much more
yeah.
associated with ET contact if you're RH
Yeah.
negative. I'm just
It's
O
it.
positive. I'm just a mere human being.
Well, I'm positive too, but I'm A positive. But
Well, you can
we
still be
do-
on our show. You can still do videos with us, even though you're positive. That's all right.
Yes, yes. But apparently, I remember an aunt of mine reckons she traced part of our family back to the old Irish kings or something or other. So we must have Celtic in our background. I've
But
never
what if
been-
you have RH negative in your family background?
possibly do, possibly, yeah. But I'm not surprised I'm A because I'm not much of a meat eater. And
Ah.
they're the only ones who can exist on a vegetarian diet, type A people.
Oh, is that right?
Mm.
Are you A type, A positive?
Yeah, I'm A type, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But yes, I got such a thrill when I read that in Jeff's book about the link between the ancient Irish, Gaelic, and the Greys. Because
Yeah, and he's Irish. I think he's
Roots
part
and stuff.
Irish. I think his mother's
yeah,
side.
that makes huge, huge sense.
Yeah.
And it explains that message that Betty got through in ancient Gaelic.
Oh, yes. Wow.
It takes it right back. Oh, wow. Also, just a bit more on the Grey Deva connection with the nature spirits. Those who've seen an illustration of the Wandjina, the Aboriginal creator beings, will see the massive similarity between the Greys. I'll just hold something up here that we picked up out at Uluru. That's an
Wow.
illustration of a Wandjina. And I've got another
How
picture.
old is that image, do you think? That symbol?
Oh, well, it goes right back to the beginning when the ETs were working with the Aboriginal people here.
Oh.
Hang on, I'll just pick this up so I can show it. Here's another.
Oh.
That's Aboriginal art.
Yeah, I think Richard Dolan would show this picture. He said in the Aborigines, was it like 40,000 years ago, they have cave painting, or was it
Oh,
4,000 years, more than that?
More than that, yeah.
But I think he said it was kind of a one-off. So he said, I don't really think that's a depiction of Greys, because the Greys weren't really known until after World War II. So he said, well, we don't know if it's a one-off. How can we say that? That was his view.
No, they weren't known as Greys back then. They were known as creator beings and Wandjinas, and they placed their essence into all the countryside. This is
Oh,
where the nature spirit comes in. I mean, Greys is a modern term. That's
Yeah.
why I've always had trouble connecting with all these terms. I look on them as Devas,
Like
because they're members of the
DEVA,
Vedic
right?
kingdom. DEVA. Yeah. We
That's
pronounce
a
it-
Buddhist term as well for angel Deva. I'm really into the Devas as well. Yeah, and
Yes,
also
and-
Greys have been seen as light beings, which are like Devas, and they take on gray form. So they
Yeah.
go in. But I think
Yeah.
Richard Dolan's point was this actual painting, this image from this cave in Australia. He said there's just one, there's not many. Are you aware
Oh,
of any more?
there's a few around. There aren't a lot because it's only the highest initiated artists in the tribe who are allowed to depict them. So there wouldn't be a lot around, but they are what they call in their language the Wandjinas, and they're the nature spirits, or creator beings is a better term they use, creator beings, because they believe that they created as the gardeners of the earth. They basically did a lot of creation down here, and they're very, very highly respected, and the Aboriginal people are absolutely, how can I say, open to the fact that they were created by them. And in
So it
fact,
could have been Greys then. It could have been Greys. I think it could be
Oh, no,
more
they
than
were-
40,000 years ago, right?
oh yeah, more than 50,000 years ago.
Wow. Jeff uses that term gardeners. He says, as the Greys go
Yep.
across the galaxy, their relationship with planets, they're like gardeners. You know, to them,
Gardeners
it's a beautiful
of the
garden. You know.
That's exactly what they used to be known by, these ancient indigenous tribes here, gardeners of the earth.
Wow. You wonder what they witnessed. Did they create the plants, like bring in plants and animals?
Yeah,
And
they created the
terraform?
ecosystem. Yeah, they created and terraformed and created the ecosystems.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So the whole
actually-
history of evolution, science cannot explain, like the Cambrian explosion about, I think, 60 million years ago. They can't explain where did all these animals and plants just come from? Did they evolve suddenly? Like evolution just
Yeah.
cannot explain this.
Yeah, that's right. No, it was a slow process. And the Aboriginal people had so much knowledge of this that people used to come from Egypt to study with them. And I've actually seen proof of this. There's a place here in Australia called the Gosford Glyphs, which is just south of the Queensland border. And there's a canyon. I visited there back in about 2016 or something. And there's ET glyphs on one wall depicting craft and things. And there's Egyptian hieroglyphs on the other wall.
And that's in Australia, right?
That's in Australia. And
Right.
they actually, apparently in Tutankhamun's tomb, they found boomerangs.
Wow. Yeah, I saw that in an episode of Ancient Aliens, how this Egyptian hieroglyphs are in Australia. So they're all over the place.
Yeah, and apparently the gold used in his death mask has the signature of a gold field down south here. So the gold was brought over as well.
Oh, they know where the gold originated from the mine in Australia. Wow.
So there was a massive connection.
See, one question the viewer might have is, I think Aboriginals have an IQ of around 65, like one of the lowest in the world. So how do we explain that? That all this ancient wisdom, but
because they're so highly evolved, they're beyond our physical 3D stuff. This is why there's a huge misunderstanding here.
Okay, meaning according to our IQ test,
according to our IQ, yeah. I think I'd have a pretty low IQ according to our count as well.
Because I know, like Mary Rodwell talks about kids who have Asperger's syndrome and autism. It's because their star seeds and it's so highly evolved. But to us, they seem autistic and Asperger's. They don't fit in, you know.
Exactly. Now the Aboriginals are incredibly open to higher energies.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
But they just live a simple life, you mean?
Very simple life, close to nature again. So again, we come back to the connection with the gardeners of the earth, and they totally respect the earth. As I say, we went to visit a site down there. We were taken there by someone trained by an Aboriginal elder, and oh boy, it was interesting.
It's also a message the Greys give experiencers. Like, we really have to take care of the environment. We have to be more one with the environment. We have to respect the environment more.
Yeah. Like Jeff, I really feel drawn to nature, just as we were talking about. I hate to see the environment being damaged. It really hurts to see it. And this is where humans are lagging behind. They just, they exploit the planet instead of respecting it.
Yeah. Well, I think what we're told about global warming is not true. I think it's a globalist agenda to get control. I think there's problems with the environment. We have to take care of it. But I think it's not as bad as we're told. Like, global warming, I think, is not much of a problem. It's not catastrophic, but it's so promoted in our society because it is an excuse for the globalists to control our freedoms and get control of us and prevent us from using oil and things like that. I think the actual science is global warming.
It's pretty destructive. Yeah. What the Greys have told me is that it's more about the patriarchal control thing down here, that the planet has become too yang. And that's what all the heating is about. It's an energy level. We need to bring in the feminine yin energy more. Again, we put up a whole thing on YouTube about that.
Okay. This is on the Judy Carroll YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
You can see that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Page 328, the Schumann Resonance. Jeff talks about that. And human brains are largely affected by this force field. Now, Jeff asks about this in his book. He said he couldn't quite see the connection between the two. But as I said to him, I went into Google quite a few years ago now to find out about the Schumann resonance, and apparently they have had to, bless you, they've had to install technology on the spacecraft leaving Earth that creates a Schumann resonance environment on the spacecraft to keep the astronauts healthy.
Ah, you mean human spacecraft?
Yeah, human spacecraft. So the Schumann resonance is really, really important for our welfare and health down here. It's intrinsically linked into human life. And so part of the planetary shift is to do with the Schumann resonance going up to a much higher level.
Yeah, did he say that the ETs are changing that? They're within the Earth. So, it goes up to about, what, 50 miles high, the Schumann resonance. And then it's going to be increased soon, right? This is going to be the big change to come, or the big shift that's coming.
Yeah, but the ETs aren't doing it. It's Mother Earth herself who's doing it, Gaia.
Really?
Because it's time for her to evolve to the next level. And so
Oh,
this is why humans have to go along with it, or they have to leave.
so that's why
Bottom
people
line.
use the term going from 3D to
To
5D.
5D, exactly. Again, we talk about this a lot in our podcasts.
Okay, so this Schumann resonance, is this something that's going to happen like all at once? It's just going to be turned up from what it is
No,
now?
it's been turning up for quite a while.
So
I
over
haven't-
what time period is this going to be done then?
Well, it's been going on since about, I'm not sure. I'd have to go in and Google it. It's all on Google. I can't remember, but it's been going on for quite a number of years. I think there was a massive shift in 2012.
Yeah, that was a significant year. Like people
Yeah, it
laughed
was.
about that, but I think I know I changed since 2012. My life
Yeah.
really changed since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what's driving the planetary shift, is the Schumann resonance, or the planetary shift driving the Schumann resonance. I mean, we don't know.
Is
which
that
it is.
resonance,
But
does that relate to the starseed kids coming in? Are their brains
Yeah.
better attuned to higher resonance? Is that what they
Yeah.
need, you mean?
Yeah.
So that's a really powerful thing. And that's something we can measure, right? Science can measure
Yes.
that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really significant. Yeah,
Yeah,
I learned
yeah.
that from your emails talking to you. I wasn't aware of that, you know?
Yeah. And this brings us back to what he says on page 329, that the Greys are assisting the awakening of human spirituality. So they're the ones who are trying to awaken us, to enable us to go through this shift.
Oh. So
And
you're
this
saying
is-
that the Schumann resonance is happening independent of the Greys. They know it's
Oh, yeah.
happening. So they're trying to get us adapted to it, you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly. And this is why often when we have an ET encounter, or people have an ET encounter, they're told it's time for you to wake up. And I remember saying this to someone.
Yeah. That
So
reminds
this-
me, I saw my first UFO just 6 days before I started the first UFO meetup group. This was May 28th, 2009. I saw a pretty close range coming by a few hundred feet away. It was just before I started the UFO meetup group. So it was almost like a
Right.
signal.
Yeah, right. Well, you're obviously very much part of it.
Yeah, Grant Cannon, he said that to me. He said, well, you're part of the game if you've seen one, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought the timing even looked kind of suspicious. Like I had my first meeting. Oh, I just saw one 6 days ago. Well, yeah, sure you did, you know, because the timing looked like it looked kind of suspicious, but that's what happened, you know?
Yeah, but the timing's always impeccable.
Yeah, it was good
You
timing.
know? I mean, there's a greater reality hand dabbling there, you know.
The idea of the Earth being a living being, I've heard that, like, Edgar Mitchell said when he was in space, seeing the Earth as a blue ball, he had kind of a real, transformational experience. Like he perceived it as like a living being, this blue ball.
Yes.
And I can never make up my mind. Does that make sense? I never thought of the world as a living being. Do you think it is?
Oh my goodness, yes. Because I mean, this is the secret behind the ET technology. Everything has consciousness, and that includes the planet.
So does this mean the planet Earth is like one being?
Yeah, referred to as Gaia.
So how does she relate to us? Like, can we talk to her? Can we get telepathic messages from her? How do we is it
Oh,
a
yeah.
female?
Oh, yes, we get telepathic emails. And that's why so many people are getting an urge to become more environmentally friendly these days. Because Mother Earth's basically saying, hey, you know, I don't want to have to get rid of you like fleas off a dog. I want you to stay here. But you're going to have to adapt yourselves if you
I
want to
wonder
stay
how
here.
spiritually evolved she is, like compared to the Buddha. Like we think the Buddhist, we think, well, he's a fully enlightened, completely enlightened being. Is the
Oh, on
Buddha,
on
is
some
planet
level,
Earth halfway there? Is she fully enlightened, or what's her status?
on some level, all of us are fully enlightened.
Well, I guess as Buddhists, we would say, well, the Buddha was a bit more enlightened than we're still struggling towards the light. But what about planet Earth? What's her spiritual level of realization?
Well, humanity's on level 1, so that's not very high, but the planet herself would be multidimensional, as we all are. I mean, we all have parts of ourselves on every level of the human ladder.
Okay.
So, okay, our consciousness is limited down here to 10%, but if we can tap into our higher soul, we have full conscious awareness, and the same would be the planet.
Oh. Oh, so the planet Earth might have consciousness at different levels as well.
Oh, yeah.
So you think she's still evolving and still growing?
Well, we all are. We all are.
If you think of us, though, like as human beings, when we die, you know, we take rebirth, we keep evolving. Does the spirit, the entity within planet Earth, die and then move on, or is she existing for 4.6 billion years as one being? What do you think her lifespan is?
Well, I don't really look on it as dying. I look on it more as transitioning, and she's doing that now. She's transitioning up to a higher level. So that's what the shift's all about.
Okay, but still her same lifespan, right? I wonder, like, how long is the lifespan of Gaia?
Well, again, the lifespan is eternal, because looking from the soul perspective, there is no such thing as death.
Yeah. Well, with really, human being, like we have a lifespan for 80 years, but our soul's eternal. We have another body. I'm wondering if this is the same 4.6 billion year lifespan of this entity.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm splitting hairs here. Yeah. All these questions, like, if she's a living being, I have a question, well, what's her nature, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, my goodness. Yes. Oh, yes. Page 385, brain and mind or consciousness are not the same thing. And I gave the analogy that was given to me before about the lungs and the air and the brain and consciousness, that they're not the same thing. And this is where scientists are getting very caught up, because people say, okay, we're only operating through 10% consciousness, and scientists argue back, no, we're not, we're using our whole brain. Yes, we are using our whole brain, but through the autonomous nervous system. But consciousness, no, we're only 10% awake consciously.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the brain and consciousness, they work together, but consciousness is non-local, not limited to the brain.
That's right. That's right.
You wonder how many scientists still have the physical materialist view that consciousness is a byproduct of chemical reactions in the brain. You wonder how many really believe that anymore, you know?
Yeah, you have to wonder, hey?
Yeah.
I mean, gee, there's been enough evidence with all these lovely books out, you know, even Alexander's Proof of Heaven book. And I mean, he was a very highly trained neurosurgeon.
Yeah.
Dr. Ibn Alexander, Proof of Heaven. That's a wonderful book. Another lovely one on near-death experiences, Anita Mojani's book, Dying to Be Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm reading Mind of God right now by Ray Hernandez. We're having him on tomorrow, when he quotes Steven Pinker. He's like a Harvard psychologist, and he was asked, you know, how does consciousness come from the brain? He says, I have no idea, no idea how that can be. We have really no theory. No, we have no theory about how this could be. So he admits that.
How interesting. How interesting. Oh, well, good we're having this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, so at least the brain's physical materialist brain scientists admit they don't know how consciousness can come from the brain. They don't understand that.
Yeah, but they can't answer it, because, you know, it's outside of 3D. So, I mean, if they limit themselves to 3D, they cannot access any answers to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is what's holding science up down here, as opposed to off-planet science. They have to start recognizing the consciousness in everything.
Yeah, I think it's deliberate. With the rise of the Industrial Revolution, we had kind of this atheist materialist worldview kind of pushed on us. Like even the West, I think prior to the Industrial Revolution, people believed in the interdimensional spirit world, even in the West. So I think this is a brief period of a few centuries in human history where we have this annihilationist, materialistic view of reality, but it's slipping, I think, since the 1950s, that view is slipping.
Yes. I mean, all the shamans know about it. You know? And as I say, this is how ET technology works. They can tap into the consciousness of minerals, plants, animals, whatever. And so therefore, like their computers are living, they can contact their computers on an energy level consciousness, which we cannot do down here. I wish we could.
Yeah.
And this is why ET people down here have so much trouble with technology, because we can't communicate with it.
Ah, yeah. And the craft they're used to communicating with it, right?
Exactly,
Here you've got a keyboard.
Yeah, that's right. On the craft, we just place our hands on the control panel and it connects into the heart chakra in the palms of our hands and the tips of our fingers.
Oh.
That's how we tap into
So
the
you've
consciousness.
experienced this yourself, right, on the craft?
Yeah.
Have you flown craft yourself, like small ones? Wow. So it's with your consciousness merges with the craft, right? Like this.
Yes. So you direct it through your consciousness, and of course, consciousness is saying, trying to get my tongue around these things, is instantaneous. So I mean, you can just think of where you want to go, and you go there.
Yeah. Jeff Selver described the same thing in his book. He was flying the craft as well. He said, you helped us up so much. Is anything we can do for you? He said, well, can I take a spin on the craft? And they showed him this. He's flying it with his mind. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
But also, I loved, again, we come back on page 386, they gave him advice to learn Tai Chi too. In the Mystic book, he was given a whole lot of teachings in what they call the Mystic book.
Yeah, that's the little book at the back of his book. Short little booklet, yeah.
And a lot of what he was given in that is very similar to the teachings that I've been given since about 1987. That I've actually put up on our website. I call it The Way of the Forest. And what I wouldn't mind when we're ending the interview, I'll read out a teaching that I was given that absolutely resonates with one that he talks about. I'm just trying to find it. Yes, the joy and spirituality message that he was given, that you can read in Jeff's book. You can read it on page 34 of my book, The Way of the Forest.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'll do in a moment.
Okay.
Just trying to look what else there is. 387, the aware universe, God or source consciousness is universal consciousness. Yes. Yeah. Spoken about.
That experience of oneness. And some people have felt that oneness, and then they come back and it's wiped from the memory. They knew everything, and then it's suppressed from their memory. They don't, what was that?
Yeah, that's right. And it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
It's like you can't remember your dreams in the morning, and they're there and they're right on the edge of your mind, but you can't remember.
Yeah, we've all had that experience.
Okay, well, that's all the notes I've taken there. So
good. Yeah, well, been almost 2 hours. This has been good. Did you want to read that bit at the end?
Look, I will. Yep, that might just about finish us off. Okay, this links in with as I say, one of Jeff's messages, and it's entitled Joy and Spirituality. I can't remember when it was given to me. It was years and years and years ago. But how it goes is, the greatest veneration you can give to God is laughter and joy. Joy is spirituality. Spirituality is joy. And to truly link with God creator oneness, this joyfulness must be expressed in everything you undertake in your daily life. Reach out and connect to it in laughter, song, and dance. See creator energy all around you in the simple beauty of a flower, a sunset, a blade of grass, or a forest filled with morning mist. Feel its boundless love and greatness filling up your heart and mind to overflowing until your eyes cannot hold back the tears of gratitude, joy, and wonder. Let it close over you and wrap around you like a protecting mantle and fill your whole being with peace and love. Simplicity, joy, and laughter, these are all that Creator God ever wants from its beloved children. Open yourself to the divine essence of the wind, the ocean, the plants, the animals, and the mountains. In fact, all of nature, for nature is a physical expression of God energy on earth. If you show your love and respect for these creations, then you show it for Creator itself. Have you ever taken the time to walk beside the sea at dawn or sunset, listening to the waves lapping upon the shore and watching the sun weave a path of golden splendor across the restless surface of the water? Or perhaps you have sat quietly under a tree in the depths of a forest, listening to bird song in the branches high above your head and being soothed and comforted by the sound of a tinkling stream close by. Then again, you may find your enjoyment in the scent and colour of a flower, in holding a small child or animal in your arms, or listening to the words of a favourite song. These are the way Creator reaches out and touches you. It is through these senses and experiences that it speaks to you in a special personal way, and how it expresses itself to you. All you need to do is take the time to listen, because it is always there, around and within you, whenever you're ready to open your heart to perceive its boundless presence.
That's nice. That's poetic. So who wrote that?
Well, it was given to me from upstairs.
Very good. Wow. It's nice to channel that kind of stuff. Very good.
Oh, as I say, I've got a whole book of them up on my website called The Way of the Forest.
Very good. I think this is the first time anyone's done a book review on Jeff's book. So just for the audience, called The Rising, The Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened Society, Enlightened City on Planet Earth. Right. And it's at jeffselver.com. It's linked below this video. So it's good that you gave her, it's good of you to read it. It's like 400-page books. I appreciate you reading and giving your experience as an experiencer, your feedback.
Yeah, I did put a review up for him on Amazon too.
Oh, very good. It's good coming from you. Yeah, and he said he's actually revising it. I think he's getting some better diagrams and drawing. He's getting a professional artist better drawing, because he just did his own drawings before. So he's actually coming up with a new edition, so it'll be even better.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Look, I fully advise people to buy it and read it. It is a brilliant book. It's
Me
one
too.
of the best books I've ever read. Yeah.
Also, tell people, watch his videos. He has good PowerPoint. Like, he's a very good presenter. He's got a master's in business.
Yes.
He's a very good speaker. I've actually been in about 35 hours of all of his videos. So that's on Jeff Selver YouTube channel, also Vancouver UFO. The book and the videos go together. So I wish him much success. And he's young. He's 45. So he has lots of time to get the message out there. So he's part of this process of the 3 waves of people coming through.
Great. Yeah.
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 Okay. Well, thank you kindly, Judy. It's always good to have you back.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I've really enjoyed it. It's been lovely.
We'll have you again sometime, I'm sure.
Yep, for sure.